Hi, folks. Eric Carlson again here, running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District in Illinois. Uh, Again, one of our low budget informational videos that we do here. This is a shoestring campaign. We're trying to take the money out of politics. It's gotten to be a great corrupting factor across the board, but that's not what we're going to talk about in this video. This video, number 16 in our Problems and Solutions series, is about the military draft. Okay, military draft ended in the 1970s in this country after Vietnam, and a lot of people, it's over the last 45, 50 years, it's been an all-volunteer military, which has led to a very professional military, which is a good thing. And a lot of people, this will be controversial because a lot of people will say, well, we only want the people that want to be there, and the if you bring a bunch of people, over 70%, I believe it was as high as 78% of American youth are not eligible to join the U.S. military, either because of criminal convictions, drug issues, medical issues. Being overweight is a huge one. Obesity. So if you look at that, a lot of people would say, well, you can't have a draft because most people won't be able to do. That's not the way you look at it. It's to get these kids in shape and to get them out of that. So I'm going to go down some things. And again, a lot of people are going to think this is controversial. It's not. This country has had the draft many times in the past, and for a good reason. It was mostly when we were at war. A couple times it carried over into peacetime. But I'm going to tell you why it matters today is because you see what's going on. We have so many enemies in the world. You look at a small nation like Israel. Um, Everyone goes through military basic training. Everyone is in the reserves. Every man and woman is in the reserves. Um, the reason behind that is Israel is such a small nation. They realize that if they're ever invaded again, the country is so small that it can be over like that. So they realize if you don't fight to win on a moment's notice, uh, your existence is over. Now we don't quite have that, but we have so much stuff that is we're looking the face of right now between China and Russia, and this is not just gonna end if this Russian thing backs down and ends peacefully. The Chinese, this is a long game for them, so you need to get these things in place now. So I'm gonna go down here and tell you why a military draft benefits the country. First of all, when you send kids there at 18 years old, they get a shared sense of country. They meet people from all 50 states and all the U.S. territories and possessions. You get to meet people of different backgrounds, different races, different cultures from all over the country, and you get to learn about them. And there's more of a shared unity. There's more a sense of country when you're with people, and you learn to joke and clown around with people. It's a dose of reality for youth too. We have right now we have a generation of pampered youth and millennials and stuff who just have no clue because they have been pampered, and they've never had anything really hard, which is why they think that there are minuscule problems here. The things that they latch on to supposedly fight for, and the issues that they feel are important are not, but they don't realize that because they've never actually had anything serious to worry about. Um, it, it's a dose of reality. Trust me on this, folks. And it helps them grow up. You grow up a lot quicker in the military than you do in the civilian world going the college route. Strengthens our national readiness. If you took the youth from here on out, and you'll see my plan over here, it's going to be a 2-year draft, which is what it's always been, or they used to have for the duration of the war. But this would only be a 2-year draft. Many countries have this. Some of them are 18 months, some of them are 2 years. But the reasoning behind this would be everyone would go in there. They would learn physical fitness, which would benefit this country down the road as far as the burden that is placed on our system with healthcare and stuff. If people learn, if you have 78% that can't go in now, because of lack of discipline and poor health and obesity. If you could eliminate that, you're saving yourself tons of money down the road, and you're giving them a better life. And they also have the title of veteran for the rest of their lives, which means they have access to certain things. And we'll go into that in a minute. But it is for people out there who think, not my kid, you're not willing to make the collective sacrifice to this country. If that's how far we've slid from the greatest generation to, no, not my kid, then there's a problem. You need to look at yourself and see if you actually deserve to be in this country, to be an American citizen. There's people who live, just because you live in this country does not make you an American. What makes you an American is standing by American values. Rebuild infrastructure. I'm going to go over that on this side here. When I say draft people into the military, I'm not saying stick everybody in the infantry. That's absolutely not it. I'm not talking about expanding that way. And again, we'll go on this side of the board. You would have tuition paid when you got out. You did your 2 years, you would have automatic tuition paid. And that's how it is here in Illinois. They have a thing called the Illinois Veterans Grant. If you served on active duty and were given an honorable discharge, your tuition and books are covered in the state of Illinois going to a state school or a community college. That's already there. When Joe Biden gets up and tells you, we need to, the program's already there for people who are willing to put out a little bit. So you're going to get a good education being in the military, number one. But then you have the option I say, because not everybody needs to go to school. Again, we'll cover that on the other side. There's a shared burden amongst families. If everybody sends a kid to the military, okay, everyone sends a kid to the military, everybody has a shared concern. And you saw this during Vietnam. When it started to get strung out, Americans were all behind it. Stop communism, 65, 66, 67. They're like, okay, what are we doing there? 68 was like, all right, man, something's not going right. But the American people, because it was a draft, you had your neighbors, kids on your block, your kids were being drafted to go over. Now, a lot of them got college deferments and things like that. But if everyone's going over there, then people realize, hey, they pressure the politicians. We wouldn't have had a 20-year war in Afghanistan. We wouldn't have been in Iraq for so long. If the American people finished it, if you have to go, you finish the job and you bring our kids home. That's it. No more you're dragging this stuff out and you making money with your friends like the current Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, goes right from 4-star general to the board of directors of Raytheon. And then now he's back as Secretary of Defense. It's a revolving door for them folks, and they're all making money on this. And they don't care about this country. They don't care about you or your family or how well you're doing. So we would have a shared burden, and it would relieve this threat of us politicians getting us into these long, drawn-out wars for reasons that we're not sure of. So more political pressure would come from families. And as Americans, we would have more in common, a shared sacrifice. What you've got now is you have for generations, you've had families that traditionally people go in the military from that family. It's like a family, right? It's almost like a knight class, a warrior class from feudal times. You have certain people that take that as a profession. Then you have certain people, families that don't. They go into other things, which is all fine. But you get a divide between Americans, and you get a divide of understanding of the sacrifices that need to be made to keep your freedoms and to keep this country the way it is, its position in the world. Less racial division. And I'll tell you this now, if you look on my website, there's a page on there called Are We Really Divided? And it is photographs of black and white soldiers it starts, there's a few from Korea and then through Vietnam. And the reason, and you could find tons of them from today, Afghanistan, Iraq, Panama, you could find all kinds of them. But the reason I chose the photographs from Korea and Vietnam is because if you look at where the nation was on a racial timeline, as far as the civil rights movement, everything, Korea was 1950 to 1953. So when you look at those pictures in Korea and see black kids and white kids working together as a team because they depended on each other, that's unity. And you only learn that if you're exposed to it. If you're not, if you live in your neighborhood where you only see people your color, and you keep having politicians talk down to you and tell you, oh, you need to be afraid of these people, they're going to come and get you and everything, and they want to take stuff from you, and they're trying to keep you down. That's bullshit, folks. It is absolute bullshit. When you have to work together, when you rely, and especially in an infantry unit, you have to rely on the man to your left and right, and it doesn't matter what race they are. If you want to argue that point, guess what? You're going to die or get someone killed. It doesn't. I can't emphasize this enough. Unless you know, you don't know. You can't know the closeness. Again, if you get a chance, take a look at those photos under the "Are We Really Divided" section on my website, ericcarlsonforcongress.com. Brings back patriotism too. If you've got an inner city kid that you've told, yeah, this country is terrible, and you spell America with 3 Ks, KKK, and write that out, what message is that sending the kid? Oh, yeah, this country just tears me down, and, it's not going to let me advance in anything. No, you can do whatever you want in this country. You just have to have the right mindset. And people are telling you, think about that. People tell you this shit for a reason. It benefits them in some way, or people just don't know, and they just, well, that's what they were told. So yeah, we can't get anywhere, we can't rise above because we're being held back or held down. No. It also, when you go in the military people are the most commonsensical people. When we go down to do hurricane stuff, it's mostly a veteran organization that I run, and we go down, and it's people from all branches of service, male, female, black, white, brown. Everybody goes down there, and it's like we can sit in a group, and there's absolutely no discussion of race, sex, or anything else. It's, what's the mission? Mission is always first. So what's our mission here? Make life better in this country for everyone across the board. It's very, very simple. And if we're united in something, if we have a shared sacrifice, if we realize that, hey, our kids are going to go for 2 years, they're going to be better people for it, they're going to make the country a better place, we share that, and we have that in common. You need to bring back the threads in this fiber, the interwoven connections that make this country great, and you're losing that. It's becoming so fractured because people want those divisions, because then they go to these, they pander to these individual groups, and they do it for their own money. Again, always follow the money. So here, I'll show you, this is just a brief outline of how this would work. So kids, once they hit 18, and 2 years is not a long time, guys. I know when you're 18 years old, 2 years seems like, oh my God, that's like 7% of my life. 2 years is not a long time. It's going to go by fast, but what you're going to get out of it too, not only the schooling and the benefits that you have after you get out, you go to basic training, and this would be an extended basic training, basic combat training. This would give every kid in America the skills when they come out to be a soldier. So if anything ever did happen, if anything like we've talked about in the past, things where, a Chinese or a Russian EMP or some type of military attack or something where we had to mobilize people, these guys already have the training. They've already had that basic military training. They're familiar with weapons. They know military discipline. They know the basics. That's the important thing, and that's what Israel does. Everybody has to know the basics just in case. So now you know the basics. You're physically fit. Now you got 3 choices. You get drafted. You can volunteer to go in the regular military. So the kids that normally would volunteer, that wanted to go do something, wanted to be infantry or be a ranger, they can go do that. They're a separate pipeline. So you're not taking, these kids that you're drafting aren't necessarily going to fight a war. They let the kids that want to go, that enjoy, that are there for that reason, that we're going to join the military anyway, let them do that. Then you don't have to worry about draftees. You're always going to get some kids that, I don't want to be here and stuff. But you don't want that tampering with your regular line units, because that causes animosity and that can cause a problem. So these kids would have I call them kids because I'm getting to that age where everybody seems like a kid now. But these kids would have the opportunity. They could go one of 2 routes. They could go the transportation route. Now, if you see, I think they said this country was short 80,000 truckers right now. We need 80,000 truckers just to be where we should be in order to be able to get our goods all across the country. This is why you're seeing all the supply chain issues and everything else that it starts at the ports and goes out there. So transportation, you train these kids as truck drivers. That's something the military does and something the military needs too. So in the event of emergency, this is huge to have all these people who know how to operate these trucks, load the vehicles, things like that. So the transportation, your truckers and also port workers, guys who can work heavy machinery and forklifts and stuff. So what would happen, and we'll go into this with the other branch, is Corps of Engineers. Now this is the big one, and I talked about this kind of in my unions video. I think it was video 11 or 12, maybe 13, I think. The majority of draftees would go into an expanded Army Corps of Engineers. Now, if you're not familiar with the Army Corps of Engineers, it's civilians and the military work together. They do a lot of different things, but this would expand. So what would happen is the Corps of Engineers would be in charge of rebuilding all these bridges that we have, and you have to do it in a military manner. You could do this so fast. What you do is say, okay, I need for different distances. Say you're going over rivers, and we have a wide river, and have a scalable model of a bridge that is reasonably aesthetic but does the job, and be able to do the same bridge over and over and over again. You would have 4 or 5 sizes, whatever you needed, that would be scalable. Where these would come in and it would be the same bridge every time, so you could just go not all these fancy architects' wet dream out there where they come up with this fancy stuff that can't be reproduced easily or readily. You have to have a pattern. It's basically like an out of the box. Boom, this bridge. You can teach these kids how to do this stuff. Not only the construction for bridges and roads, but also the electrical grid that we talked about. That's huge. We need to get everything underground, first of all. This does away with the interruptions by ice storms and tornadoes and hurricanes. Every time they go down, I go to these hurricanes, and it's like, oh yep, everything's down. All the telephone poles, power lines are all down. Everything's knocked down, and then they come in, they got all the crews, and they put them back up, and and then the next storm comes and knocks the shit down again. Can we not, say, okay, we're going to start working on this, and this entire country should be rewired. Everything should be put underground and hardened against an EMP attack. If electricians are worried about job security of putting this down, like, oh, well, then we won't have to go and work on the lines and everything. There will be enough work for everyone redoing this entire grid for this country. So another thing is pipe fitters, electricians, iron workers, these guys to do the bridges, the pipe fitters. You need to have natural gas access to all of our power plants. You could run power plants on natural gas. We have so much of it. It would lower everybody's cost of living, your cost of fuel, the amount of money you're paying right now in winter to heat your house because of what Joe Biden Democrat policies have caused the shortages and the rise in everything. Not only your gas prices at the pump, but the price it costs to heat your house and the electricity. You can power these plants. There's a million ways to power them. You can go look at nuke. You can look at clean coal. We're trying to get away from that, but natural gas is the cleanest alternative that we have right now, other than nuclear, that we can use, that we have an abundance of as we move towards. People think, oh, you want to use natural gas, so you're against the climate. No, we've actually reduced carbon emissions in this country under Donald Trump, going to natural gas as we look for the technology of wind and solar and hydro, even geothermal, tapping the energy that's below us. I'm actually taking a geology course right now, and show what energy and stuff that we could tap below the surface. These are all things that in a capitalist system I guarantee you there's a kid at MIT or Stanford right now that's in a basement somewhere working on the solution for the next problem. If you allow people to benefit from their thoughts, people get more industrious the more freedom they have and the more possibility for reward. You shouldn't punish them. That should be rewarded because it helps everyone. Another video. But so these kids would get all this training, 2 years of training in the construction trades, and then on job sites right now, the Corps of Engineers would work with contractors, civilian contractors, to do these jobs. So the civilian contractors, these young workers who've been doing it for 20 years and know stuff, they would be paired with some of these kids coming out that have 2 years. They're still learning. You got to get the grunt labor. Basically, it's like the apprenticeship program. So once they did their 2 years here, they would have preferential hiring for all these civilian contractors. And listen, this country is so big and we need so many things improved and to keep advancing stuff. You will have work for people in the trades and this is stuff that can't be automated. You know, you will have work for so many, and these are good paying jobs. This is where I went to the unions and say, people, for some reason, they think that Republicans are against unions. Absolutely not. I've been a member of several unions. Republicans are not against unions. Republicans are against the fact that unions take money dues from their members and they put that in a slush fund, and 95% of the time they use that money to elect Democrat candidates that turn around and by their policies screw over the union guys. Because open borders, you bring people up here, you bring cheap labor up here, this causes people to look around and say, well, you know what, I really would like to hire the union guy, but I am on a budget, and this guy over here only wants $10 an hour to do it. Yeah, sure, he's not trained and he might blow my house up or wire something wrong. Unions, you got to get away from the Democrat Party. They are not helping you. They are not your friends. They just want your money, and they want to tell you, they give you the same old speech. They rail about how Republicans are the party of the wealthy. Well, I can tell you, I run a nonprofit. I made less than my take home was less than $22,000 in 2021. And that's a full-time job for me. Now I could leave. I could go back and get my carpenter's card and go back and make about $100,000 a year. But I don't, because I like what I do and it helps people. It's like I said, the preferential treatment. So these kids, got off track there. The preferential treatment, these kids would get out after their 2 years. They would have the ability to go to school. That money would be locked in. That whenever they wanted to go. Like, I'm going back to school at 53. They have that option. So that's always on the table. So this is all the Democrats say, oh, we need free college. Well, there's no such thing as free unless all the professors are working for free and all the people at the school, how they're keeping the lights on. Is that free? Somebody has to pay for it. It comes out of your tax dollars. So I would rather have my tax dollars go to teach a kid. And a lot of people will say that this will expand the defense budget too much. No. One thing you need to do, and I'll cover this more in my video on the current U.S. military situation, is you got to stop. Right now, they are offering a $50,000 signing bonus. That was more than I made in my entire first enlistment over years. They're offering that as a signing bonus for kids now because they can't get them in because, kids don't want to go in there, and there's a reason for that. And part of it are the socialist liberal policies that are destroying the military and not allowing them to do their job. I know I have friends that are still in the military. It's not the same military, and it's not as lethal as it was, and it's not going to be as effective, and it's going to get your kids killed. Again, that's a different video, but think about this, folks. It's the draft. We've had it before. It makes sense. The arguments against it, tell me what they are. Put them in the comments down below. I'd love to hear it, and I'll address them when I can. Again, as always, if you want to see a video on any question, any topic that's facing us right now, I will give you my opinion and what I think are solutions to a problem, and you can look at it and see what you think. Again, logic, reason, and common sense, folks. I'm Eric Carlson, running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District of Illinois. Thank you.